This is the original Johto Safari Zone, cut from the game due to time constraints, and this is the Johto Safari Zone fully realized in Pokemon Heartgold and Soulsilver. Because the Johto Safari Zone was brand new content crafted for the remake, the dev team made some interesting creative choices. The most insane of which is the real-world days you have to wait in order to capture some of the Pokemon. Come join me on a trip to the Johto Safari Zone where we break down its flaws, consider how it could have been improved, and see how long it would take to catch them all. So, a Safari Zone is an area in a Pokemon game where you capture Pokemon without battling them. Gameplay-wise, they are designed to give the player an opportunity to expand their team towards the middle of the game. Since Heartgold and Soulsilver Safari Zone was added in the remake, it's a little off the beaten path. In order to make sure the player knows about the Safari Zone, they meet this guy named Boba. So we meet Bob on Route 39 and he talks up this Safari Zone he's cooking up. After the player completes the Lighthouse quest, the Safari Zone will be open for business, located down a new route added specifically for the remake. Quick shout out to this route, I love it. So once you reach the Safari Zone, you might find it to be much more grid-like than any other Safari Zone, and this is by design, since the Johto Safari Zone is customizable. There are 6 different areas of the Safari Zone, but there are 12 potential biomes that can be placed. In order to unlock the biome switching feature, you have to do the first of the Safari Zone challenges, which is to catch a Geodude. I like this. I think it's cool that the game is challenging you to get a specific Safari Zone Pokemon, as it encourages you to engage with the feature. Once you catch a Geodude, you are then informed that you will need to wait for a phone call for the next challenge. So something annoying about Bob the Safari Warden is that he contacts you through the Pokegear. Why is this annoying? Because you have to wait for him to call you. So the reason Boba calling you is so annoying is because it makes it really unclear when the next challenge in the other Safari Zone upgrade is going to be ready. There's also really no reason for the game to make you wait for him to call you. It's not like there's anything game-breaking unlocked behind the next challenge, and the final upgrade could have simply just become available after the post-game instead of making you wait for the game to finally grace you with a phone call. So once you finally get the call you were waiting for, you are given your next challenge: to capture a Sandshrew. And in order to capture a Sandshrew, you will need to change around the biomes. Again, I like this challenge as it encourages you to engage with yet another feature of the Johto Safari Zone. After you catch Sandshrew, your reward is that you own the Safari Zone. Wait, what? I caught 2 common Pokemon and suddenly you're granting me the keys to the kingdom? That's weird. I think they could have put in a few more challenges before I was granted such a prize. Also, it's funny that you still have to pay admission even though you own the place. Like, you don't even get a cut. So until the post game, the Safari Zone is a great way to add a few unique team members during the mid to late game. They actually used the Safari Zone to rectify one of the original Gold, Silver, and Crystal's biggest flaws: that Larvitar wasn't available until post game. In the Heartgold and Soulsilver Safari Zone, you can pick up Larvitar well before your Elite Four challenge. Other than that, it's kind of strange that a lot of the Pokemon in the Johto Safari Zone are ones that you can pretty much get anywhere else in the game. Magnemite, Geodude, the Nidorans, Oddish. Like, usually there are a few Safari Zone Pokemon that are available earlier in the game, but this Safari Zone double dips a lot, which kind of flies in the face of the whole thing of the Safari Zone, which is that it's a place where you meet a lot of new Pokemon. I also think it's really funny that you can encounter Clefairy, Jigglypuff, Nidorino, and Nidorina here. Why is that funny? Because these are the only 4 Pokemon in the entire game that have a boosted catch rate with the Moon Ball, but you can't even use the Moon Ball here because you could only use Safari Balls. So there's this whole Pokeball that only works better on 4 Pokemon, and the only place you can catch those 4 Pokemon, not including the post-game, is an area where you can't use that Pokeball. But you can hear more about that in my Moon Ball video, link in the description. So the main gimmick of the Johto Safari Zone comes about in the post-game, where you unlock furniture placement. You know, after Bebop finally calls you back after 3 real hours of gameplay pass. Oh yeah, and he only gives you some of the furniture up front and holds on to the rest of it until another 3 hours of gameplay pass. Oh, and he actually is holding on to even more, and he gives you that after another 3 hours, and then another. That's the last one though. 12 hours total. Obviously, you can just leave your game on to bypass this, but this is such a dumb way to give the player all the furniture items. Like, these are furniture items, so by definition, they should be collectible items, not something that's just handed to you. It's really such a missed opportunity that they didn't combine the Safari Zone with secret bases. It would have been such a slam dunk for you to go and collect your own fun furniture items and then place them in this place where you can capture Pokemon, and even use those furniture items to help you capture more Pokemon. Such a missed opportunity. So the way that the furniture works is you place certain items in certain biomes and it attracts certain Pokemon to these biomes. This adds special Pokemon to the Safari Zone, many which are from Gens 3 and 4. Some of these Pokemon don't show up immediately after the object is placed. Some of them only appear when certain objects are placed and after a certain amount of real-world time has passed. How much time, you may ask? Well, 10 days for some of them. 10 days? That's a lot of time to wait for a Pokemon. Oh, did I not mention? 10 days is the lowest. Some of these Pokemon can take as long as 110 days, nearly 4 months to start appearing in the Safari Zone. Yeah, it'll take you over 100 days for Pokemon like Gible, Bagon, and Bronzong to start appearing. There's some other strange ones as well, like Roselia after 20 days and Weasel after 40 days, and like, that doesn't sound as high compared to the multi-month ones, but like, still a tall order for Pokemon that are so easy to get in other games. There is one thing that makes this not as bad, which is that the day counter does not reset if you rearrange the items, and it actually doesn't even reset if you change biomes, but they only do advance in their day requirements if those biomes are present in the Safari Zone. So with only 6 slots and 12 biomes, catching them all is going to be quite a challenge. But we'll get to that in a bit. The reason for all this day passing chicanery is because the amount of different types of objects you put down that attract Pokemon get more powerful as your biome has been active longer, and some Pokemon require more than the default 30 points that you can get at 0 days. Of course, my biggest criticism of all this is that the game on its own gives you no indication of how to do this other than some cryptic phone calls from Bappo, who says, something's happening at the Safari Zone, and this little chart that says you might see some special Pokemon. But the problem with both of these indications is that you only see them after you do the thing that you would have no way to know how to do. The developers are basically just like, yeah, well, you all use guides anyway, whatever. And like, yeah, we do all use guides, but you shouldn't design your game around it. But beyond that, I think the complicated nature of the Safari Zone might be the point. Maybe for someone like me who made sure to own every Pokemon game and had easy access to Platinum and Emerald, it seems strange to see these crazy encounter restrictions for Pokemon like Roselia. But perhaps if someone only has Heartgold, this is their only way to get some of these Pokemon. So they have to be patient. Or maybe it's just the specialness of having these Pokemon that otherwise couldn't be captured in a Safari Ball in a Safari Ball. Like, the only way to have Garchomp in a Safari Ball is to wait the 100 days. So that's a Pokemon not many trainers actually have. I think maybe it would have been cool if, instead of it being Pokemon you can catch easily in other games, these high wait time Pokemon had special forms and maybe even special moves to make them feel fully exclusive. I mean, if the player is really waiting this long, you should make it worth their while. But there is one other reason to capture Pokemon in the Johto Safari Zone, even with this crazy day restriction. Pokemon in the Johto Safari Zone are more likely to have at least one IV of 31, meaning if you want high IVs of some of these powerful pseudo-legendary Pokemon, you won't have to wait as long. Well, you'll have to wait as long in the days, but you won't have to wait as long when you're actually doing the encounter. So now, for the grand finale of the video, what would it take to capture every Safari Zone Pokemon? Now, beyond regular encounters and 0-day furniture item encounters, there are 33 Pokemon that take 10 days or more to appear. So, since you can only have 6 biomes at a time, what is the least amount of days it would take to catch them all? Like I said earlier, switching out the furniture does not reset your day counter. So, even though Shelgon requires 21 peak objects and Weasel requires 18 water objects, which wouldn't be possible to place at the same time, all you have to do is swap out the objects once the appropriate time has passed. Going into writing this video, I actually was under the impression that the time would reset if you changed the furniture, which if that were the case, this challenge would have been enough of a nightmare to make even Darkrai check under his covers. So I'll go through each biome's highest weight Pokemon, starting with our first 6. So these first 6 biomes I'm gonna mention are the ones with the longest wait. So you're gonna want to put them in your first Safari Zone setup to catch them all in the shortest amount of time. In the forest biome, you can encounter Bronzong after a whopping 110 days, which ties it with Bagon in the swamp area, also 110 days, with longest wait Pokemon. Like, I get Bagon, it's a pseudo-legendary, but why does Bronzong of all things get this honor? Also, in the swamp, you can actually capture a Duskull after 40 days on the water, which is strange because you can catch it in the grass after 0 days, so there's absolutely no reason for you to go out of your way to get it on the water. Also, this is the only encounter in the entire Safari Zone that takes place on the water that requires real-world days. Can someone give me me a meeting with Game Freak so I can ask them, how did they come to the conclusion to design their game like this? Like, why is it more on the water? Whose game experience is improved by this? Okay, next up is Rocky Beach Gibble, which is 100 days. Again, pseudo-legendary, makes as much sense as any of this nonsense possibly could. Next up is the Mountain, where Celio takes 80 days to appear. If you're really desperate for Safari Ball Walrein but don't want to wait the 80 days, you can get Spiel after 40 days at the Peak biome. Actually, Bronzor is in that biome too after 30 days. So would you rather EXP share these Pokemon for a little bit or wait weeks? Then we get Riolu in the Meadow after 70 days. This one I also get. Lucario is one of the big Gen 4 Pokemon, and it's kind of crazy that it can be caught in a Safari Ball, especially since it can't be caught in the wild anywhere else in Gen 4. So until the next generation, you can only have it in either a Pokeball or a Safari Ball. Next is Wetland with Shelgon at 70 days. Bagon was 100 days, and Shelgon is 70? Why is the pre-evolution less than the evolution? You get it 40 days early and it's evolved? How is that fair? Metang and Beldum are the same too, by the way. Metang takes just 30 days and Beldum takes 70. It's just strange. So those are the first 6 biomes, which means that after 110 days, you can start hunting the last 2 big Pokemon, being Bronzong and Bagon. I would recommend trying to get all the other Pokemon right around when their days come, so that on day 110, you can just nab the final 2 and switch all the biomes over. I know I'm not listing them all because I'm sure this video is long enough, but like, yeah, there's a lot of Pokemon here, and you're going to be consulting guides and redoing furniture items. Oh yeah, and don't forget, Beldum and Metang have as low catch rates as legendaries, but you can't weaken them and they might run away, so good luck with that. So if you were gonna try to catch all Pokemon in all 6 biomes right on day 110, I doubt you'll finish on that day. So once we switch everything over, we start with the Peak biome, whose big prize is Vigoroth at 60 days. So yep, 170 days, just under 6 months is the minimum amount of days it takes to do this challenge. To make matters worse, the next biome's big prize is Cacturne at 40 days in the desert. So if Vigoroth's 60-day requirement didn't exist, this challenge would be 20 days shorter. Next up, we've got the Savannah, where Torkoal takes 30 days. Then we got Marshland's 30-day Banette and Wasteland's 30-day Solrock. Lastly, we've got the Plains, but we don't have to wait for any of those Pokemon. They're all 0 days. Honestly, looking at it like this really isn't too bad of a challenge. It really just comes down to following a guide and waiting a lot of days for its many Pokemon to appear. You'd probably get a really good sense of accomplishment for doing all this, and I'm sure not a lot of Pokemon trainers have. But if you've gotten all the Johto Safari Zone Pokemon, let me know how much of a Safari Zone legend you are. And thank you so much for watching this video to the end. Hey, good news, if you like crazy Pokemon challenges like this, I got another video for you right here. And I also have done some videos on the Pokemon anime, which you'll see right here. All right, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.